Alrighty, welcome to another episode of the College Baseball, your Just Baseball College Baseball podcast. I'm Jared. We got Will with us today, but we are joined by a very special guest. We have head coach of the Tulane Green Wave, Jay Uhlman. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on. I know we've been following the Green Wave for a while, but the first question I got to ask you, just to kind of introduce yourself to the viewers, give us a little bit of background on your kind of coaching journey, how you got to where you are today.
I don't know. We got enough time on the show. This will be my 29th year coaching college baseball. I've done everything you could ever possibly do in the game, meaning been a volunteer, been a camp director, second assistant, first assistant, recruiting coordinator, associate head coach, junior college assistant, junior college head coach. I've been a high school assistant. So I've kind of run the gamut and worn a bunch of different hats, and started as a graduate assistant at my alma mater at the University of Nevada. I played 2 years at the University of Nevada after a 2-year JUCO stint at LA Harbor, and then finished up my degree at Nevada. Did a year with Gary Powers, Stan Stolte, who's at UNLV, and Jason Gill, who's now at Cal Poly with Larry Lee. And then went home to California and didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to put on a suit and tie. And so I went back to my junior college and was an assistant for a year, and then became the head coach the very next year. And had, I think we were 36-8 my last year there. Played Dennis Rogers Club. And they ended up winning it all. They were really good. And then I was offered the job back at Nevada. Took that job after 2 times saying no. And then did that for 10 years. Went to the University of Nevada, University of Oregon as a volunteer. And then there you go. So you can hear all my announcements. Hey, can you?
I love it.
Can you turn that off? This is just life, man. This is how this rolls. So, went up to Oregon with Coach Horton. He was restarting the program, and had opportunity to be a volunteer there. Did that for a year and a half, and then got a job literally 2 weeks before practice officially started in January with Rich Price at Kansas. It was a paid job. I had already turned down 3 jobs a year before to go back as a volunteer for year 2. Had to take it, 2 young kids, so I took it. Had no way of knowing that Coach Checketts would get the job at Santa Barbara, which he currently is still there, obviously. And Mike Kirby went back to Cal State Fullerton, and Coach Horton brought me back. So I hadn't even moved out all my boxes yet, and I had a good bit unpacked, but I still had some left. And then headed back to Oregon, where my wife is from. She grew up there, went to South Eugene High School. Her dad was a professor at the University of Oregon for 30 plus years. So it was nice to be able to take her again back home. And we spent the next 10 years there. And then Coach Horton, we had about a 4-year spill where it was pretty lean, hovered around 500 for about 4 years. Ironically, had a number of guys that ended up playing in the big leagues in those teams. So bad coaching by me. And so I was out of a job, and Coach Jewett, who's now at USC, was the head coach at Tulane. Eddie Smith had just left for a volunteer job at LSU to be the hitting coach. And so he had a spot open, and I went way back with Travis, and he was gracious enough to provide me an opportunity to stay in the game. And it was the 3rd time I was looking for a different job. So at that age, you kind of start wondering if this is going to be it, and trying to figure out what the hell you're going to do. And just got lucky. The timing was right. And he brought me down, and it was the COVID year. So I'd never been to New Orleans, came down here, and we started out 15-2, we were rolling, and then COVID hit. And 2 years later, I was, interviewed for the job when it was open, and got the job. And this is now starting year 4. So 29 years, going on 29 years of doing this awesome job, helping people along the way. It's just been really satisfying.
No, I love hearing every coach's journey, right? Because everyone's different. And then you kind of hear all the names that you've got to coach with and coach under and where they kind of end up too. And it's kind of just cool because, one, the game's so small, and you hear names that you just I have heard over and over again, or I've worked with, like Travis Jewett was at ASU when I was a student manager there. And it's just like all these connections that you kind of don't think of. But thinking about your journey and kind of where you've gotten today, what are some of the biggest lessons that you learned that have really helped you in your time as head coach at Tulane now?
A lot of them. I wish I knew a lot of things earlier in my career that, that I thought I had the answers to, and I really didn't. And I think that goes with just, youthfulness and lack of experience. And, you learn those things along the way. But I think really the thing that stood out for me is this is a hard profession. Winning is hard. Having a job at this level is hard. I think a lot of people think that it's easy to get a job, but it's really not. And I think a lot of people, there are factions of people, is probably a better way to put it, that aspire to the next job, and they see the logo on the polo of another coach or the T-shirt of another coach. Not as many polos now. It's kind of an old school thing, but they're aspiring to have that polo and what it'd be like to be able to, recruit at that school. And everything just comes with a different set of challenges. You might be at a school like Oregon, like I was, and have every possible thing in your favor, but there are other things that go with that maybe you don't have to worry about when you're out of Nevada, in terms of the relentlessness of the recruiting and the competitive part of that. And not that Nevada wasn't competitive. It's just things are different in different places. It doesn't mean it's easier or better or any of those kind of things. So, but I think ultimately just being able to hang in there, it's just kind of like you tell the players, the game rewards, I think, people that can just hang in there long enough and, and don't quit. A lot of people quit right before the finish line, and they don't realize how close they are to getting what they're striving for, because they just don't finish. And so, and some of those are things that are out of their control, but there aren't many guys nowadays that are in the business for 30 plus years. So, I'm proud of that, but it's been on the backs of the players. It's been on the backs of the people that I've worked with and worked for, and just really grateful for all the opportunities, because, maybe at certain times I wasn't the most mature coach or the best recruiter, or, I'd take my bumps and bruises along the way, and still taking those now, just in a different form. But just been able to learn from all those things. And like I tell our players all the time, it's never about what happens to you. It's always the response.
Yeah, no, I love that. That kind of last sentence that you wrapped up on, and it kind of goes into my next question, just talking about development and recruiting guys and getting them to come to play for Tulane. I know you all had one of the best transfer portal classes. I think you were like 16th on the 64 analytics list, but what are some of those values that you're kind of preaching to them, or some of those principles that are kind of non-negotiable when you try to think about building that team culture and bringing those guys as soon as they know they step in the door, like this is how it's going to be, but like this is what we're going to instill in you, and this is how we're going to develop you, not just on the field but off the field.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's you being a great teammate. I think that's a big one, and I think being a good human being off the field. Like, I want our guys to be nasty on the field, to have JUCO grit and be tough and ornery and competitive. But when the game's over, I want them, to be able to hug their parents and not be able to dismiss losing or take winning for granted, but just still also be able to try to keep things in perspective. The people around you love you, whether you win or you lose. And sometimes it's really hard to separate those things. But, I get, the older you get, I think the winning's always great. Winning's hard, and nothing replaces winning. That's why we do this. That's why they keep score. There is a process for that. But at the end of the day, we're all judged by outcomes. But I think the thing that I take a lot of pride in is getting things out of the blue from people that you affected that you didn't even know you affected, whether it's former alumni's parents that had a Hall of Fame weekend that were grateful for you rolling out the red carpet as a program for when they came back and making them feel welcome, or it's the the stewardess on a flight that asks you if you're the coach, and when you respond yes, they can't wait to tell you that they've been doing this for a lot of different years and had a lot of different teams on planes, and it was one of the best, if not the best, behaved, respectful, kind group of people they've ever worked with on a flight, hotels, like those kind of things. And that was a Coach Horton staple. That was always something he really preached, and it kind of just sang to my core too. I think the game knows, we always say, and I think when you try to operate from good principles and being good people, I think good things happen to you, and it may not always be when you want them to happen to you, but I think ultimately you're rewarded. I think the relationships become deeper. I think guys can, I think they can overcome maybe getting yelled at a little bit more when they know you care. It's coming from a place of love. It's like I always tell them, please do not listen to the tone of my voice, listen to the message, because like I tell them, when I stop being passionate and sounding like I'm mad at them, but I'm not, the day I'm not passionate about teaching them and developing them and holding them accountable and showing them the right way is the day I'm going to ride off into the sunset and not coach baseball anymore and do something else. So those things bring great joy. And I think those are all kind of non-negotiable things. And, culture is a big fancy word, like everybody always talks about. And everybody always says, well, culture's kind of a buzzword, but like for me, it's like, we don't have a bunch of words on our wall. What we do every day is kind of how we go about measuring ourselves with how we want to be as a team. And everybody's different. Every year's different. I want our guys to have their personalities. I'm not trying to clone them. I'm not trying to coach fear into them. I am trying to challenge them, but I don't want them to ever look over their shoulder and wonder if I'm supporting them and I got their back. I want them to understand that this game's already challenging. I'm on their side, but being on their side doesn't mean I tell them what they want, the way they want to hear it, when they want to hear it. Those are the tough conversations, but I think those things are really important for our program. I can't speak to everyone else, but for me running it, I waited a long time to become a head coach again. So winning is important. I've said it already multiple times in this interview, but I'm at this point in my career, there are certain things that I'm not willing to give away for the sake of winning. And that includes our players' health, their physically and mentally, and so I'm always going to err on the side of that. And I always have been, and I always will be a player's coach.
No, I love that. I loved a lot of what you said. And before I kind of turn over to Will for the next question, one thing that kind of hit home to me that you mentioned is talking about, like, no matter whether you win or lose, like at the end of the day, you go home to people who love you. And I did a podcast called Behind the Scenes a while ago. We had Brewer Hicklin on, and he talked about like how he went through the biggest struggles of his entire career. Finally, he just kind of mentally reset. And he's like, at the end of the day, he's like, I just started to realize when I went home, like my wife still loved me, my dog was there, like everything was good when I got home. So I just had to leave that on the field. And then the next year, I think he went like hit 40 bombs, had 30 stolen bases in AAA, got the call up to the big leagues. And so it's just like those little mind shift things that I don't think people think about are really play a huge role.
Yeah, and I want to mirror those things as a father, as a coach. If I'm gonna tell them certain things, like I always say, if I'm gonna tell you to rake your position, I'm gonna have a rake or I'm gonna have a broom. I'm not just gonna point and tell you. I'm gonna show you, and I'm gonna walk the walk and talk the talk. So I think those are really important, and I'm pretty intentional when it comes to those things, but organically intentional, I guess. I know it's not phony, and I know it's not fake, and I think players better than anybody can smell a phony a mile away, and I think it's really critical of your authenticity when it comes to those things and showing them. And I want to model the kind of behavior that I think is healthy in our sport. I think in the old days when I was growing up in this thing, I played for old school guys that don't drink water, don't eat food in the dugout, don't talk to your parents in between games, and there's a place for that. Like, you could say hi and give them a kiss on the cheek and say thanks for coming and then go about your business. You shouldn't be hanging out on a fence talking to people for 30 minutes before a game. I think that sends the wrong message. But I think, when the game's over and all things are equal, I think you've got to be able to be a man and handle. If you can't handle losing, then you don't deserve the winning part of that, because you got to be able to do both. I really believe that.
No, I love it.
Yeah, you talk a ton about, instilling those principles into your players, all of that. And obviously it's resulted in a ton of on the field success. In 2025, it was your third straight appearance in the AAC championship game. In 2023, 2024, obviously you took home that champion, but what are the biggest pillars of being a championship contender year in and year out? You're building this program and you're consistently in that position to succeed and get into regionals and getting players drafted. Can you just kind of talk about, what that means to have a championship contending team every single year on the field?
Well, I appreciate that. And it hasn't always been the most typical ways to do those things. But, I think a few things got to happen. You got to get lucky. You got to have timing, and you got to be healthy. I think those things matter. But I think really the bare bones of it is, the 23 group, we won 15 games. We have the dubious distinction of being the worst team ever in an NCAA regional. And to that, I say, great. We were in there and others weren't. We won a tournament, and it's hard to win, and it's hard to win tournaments. And we were able to do that. And I'm most proud about that, because I think if I were a parent of a kid being recruited by Tulane, I would take that as a signal that these coaches and these players continued on. They just kept going just one step further. There was air in their lungs, so they could still breathe, and they still had a chance. And I think a lot of times when you're on teams that where you don't feel valued throughout the year and you feel like you're being quit on, I think it's easy for guys to just check out and talk about summer league and what, there was no portal when I played, but talk about transferring and those kind of things. And it's easy to get sidetracked and distracted. But my hope is that people see that as like, that was unbelievable that happened and the way that it happened. And, we were in every series that year. Going into Sunday, we were 1-1 every Sunday going into that year in the conference. And so we never really got blown out or played so poorly. We got swept by Houston the second to the last series of the year that year. But other than that, we had a chance to win every series we played in. We were young, and I was a first-year head coach. And so that's a bad combination. But the thing we didn't do as a coaching staff was quit on those guys and point the fingers. And we kept coaching in them, loving them, and motivating them. And I think they believed in that. And they saw that we were close all year. And, when you started a tournament and you got new life, everything's equal again. And that was really important. So I think continuing to coach the guys throughout you ask your players to finish. It's the same thing I referred to earlier about it. If you're going to tell a guy what to do, where to rake, you better have a rake. It's the same thing. If, we're going to talk about finishing and not playing to the scoreboard and about the process, then you damn well better be living up to that too. And I think we did that. And I think we do that for the most part. Are all of us human and susceptible to kind of woe is me at times? Absolutely. But acknowledging that and being accountable to that in front of your peers and your players or your staff is really important. And I think it leads to building bigger trust. And so that's helpful. And, as we've kind of moved the needle a little bit in the program, I think the reputation amongst the guys in the portal are, hey, you can go to Tulane and develop. You can go to Tulane and actually have the head coach talk to you more times in 2 weeks, and maybe you talk to your head coach of the program you're at for 3 years, and which I find crazy, but those things have been said to me and said to our staff. So that's a real thing. And, and players talk, they share experiences. And, this year, speaking of sharing experiences and being able to keep players, we lost in 3 years, we lost our first contributor to the portal this year. We had a kid defect. He was 3 classes short of a Tulane degree and decided he wanted to go play in the Big 12. So that was the first guy we lost that contributed significant innings. And so I think that also speaks to kind of what we're doing here. And I think our players talk to those players out there when maybe those players are in the portal and are trying to figure out where they're going. And, case in point, Michael Lombardi is a kid we had for 3 years, a high school kid. He was a second rounder this year, signed for over $1 million. And he's friends with a kid named Nolan Naraki, who was at Clemson and South Carolina and is coming off knee surgery. He's a heck of an athlete. He's still working through those things now, but that relationship between those two kids helped us land a kid like that. I think the way that Coach Izio and our staff goes about recruiting the players, with authenticity, respect when it doesn't go our way, meaning when they choose another school, I think serves us plentiful when it comes to the portal, because when those kids come back around and they're back in the portal or they're in the portal from high school, they remember how we treated them. And I think that's been a big bonus for us too. And, we didn't yell at them when they didn't commit to us, or we didn't, scream them down or yell at their coaches. We just wished them luck and treated them the way you hope everybody treats somebody else. So I think kind of those things that have kind of moved the needle for us have kind of contributed to the things that we're doing. And so when you're starting to develop a little bit of a reputation, and again, we haven't won 40 games yet. We haven't been to a super regional. We haven't won a regional. So, I mean, there's still plenty of meat left on the bone for us. And it is a process. I think maybe John Wooden took 16 years to win a national championship. I'm not saying I'm John Wooden or we're UCLA basketball. That's not what I'm saying. I'm simply saying that it takes time and there's a process, and some people hit the lottery fast and some people wait a long time to hit the lottery, and so it'll be when it's supposed to be. And if it never comes to fruition, I can lay my head on my pillow at night and know that us and our staff and our players go about it every day. We want to have fun, and winning is fun, but we want to have joy, I guess, in our work and what we're doing. And I really take a lot of pride in when our players come to the park. They are at the park. They love coming to the park. I go up after, 3 groups later are done, and guys from the first group of skill development are still in our clubhouse. Like, that to me is a great sign of a culture that people want to be around while they're here. And so, like I tell the recruits, I can tell you everything I want to tell you about us as people and the way we run our business and how we treat our players and what we're doing here. But until they actually get in it, they have no idea. And I'm just a used car salesman until then. But, hopefully we can continue to do well by the player, and we continue to coach like we're all junior college coaches. So we're going to coach. We coach.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Michael Lombardi getting drafted this year, but he was just one of 3 guys that went off the board in July when the draft happened. Yep. Can you kind of talk about your player development philosophies? You mentioned Lombardi was a high school guy. He stuck it out for 3 years, and obviously he reaped the benefits of that. And in an age where you're getting kind of a new group every single year, your player development is one of your strongest assets. So if you can just talk through some of your philosophies and how you're getting guys to that level.
Yeah, again, it's the coaching staff. They do a tremendous job of being detailed, being organized, having everything set up for them. We're blessed with a great budget for our program. We have a very traditional baseball program that a lot of people have pride in, and so when you have that, people want to support it. And so, when we need the Theraguns and the Normatechs and the Edgertronics cameras and the spinball machines and all the TrackMans, both in stadium and portable, and you got box accounts, and you got 2 player development guys, and you have a bunch of managers that want to be a part of it. I think we have over 20 guys that are helping us. It's all about the amount of people that are willing to do the work for the sake of the players and their development. And the player has a responsibility too. It's development is their responsibility, not just ours. We can lead a horse to water, but we can't make them drink. So the player has to be devout in his intentional work, his weight room. That's a big part of it. You referred to Lombardi. With Montiel drafted Connor Rasmussen, and Montiel's a really cool story because I think for 3 years he was. I'm not saying this to embarrass him because this is what he would say. And he was on the chopping block for 3 straight years. He came to us out of the portal from Mississippi State. Electric arm. There's a reason he was there, but just didn't harness it, and we have 40-man roster. The days of a guy like Taylor Montiel might be passing us by because we're going to have 34, and we're not going to have the patience. Programs are going to have, I shouldn't say we're not going to, but programs are going to be more pressed to have less patience with people because we're at 34, whereas a guy like Montiel, who was always on the fringe, he had a good arm, he's left-handed. Those things certainly help keep you around. But it was never a lot of strikes, and there wasn't a lot of confidence, and something clicked for him. I don't know if it's the water bags, the med balls, the core velo belts, all the things that Coach Izio does. And I mean, you guys have time to come out and watch it, it's really impressive. I don't want to toot his horn too much and get people interested in trying to steal him from me, but it is what it is. He's really good at what he does, and the players love him, and they know, he meets with them all the time, and same with Coach Jones and Coach Hodge, who are new on the staff. But it's really it's player centric that way. Like every waking minute that we're up, we're trying to figure out, okay, what do we need to do for them today? It's not like, hey, let's roll out the balls and the best 9 guys will survive and the best 12 pitchers will survive, and we'll just go out and get 10 more of you like that. We got a $98,000 cost of education. We can't do that. So we've got to do better with what we have while we have them. And so, again, I think that lends itself to a trust factor. There's development that happens. They're not being coached into fear. They're being coached into communication, being coached into real communication. Like, this is what if you can't communicate, you can't pitch for us, because coaches will have a hard time with you. I just had a conversation with the kid Aiden Rath, who we just got out of the portal. He doesn't talk a whole lot, but I told him, I said, you better write down some questions when you go into your individual meetings with him weekly, because he demands that, and I'm going to demand that you at least make an effort to do that. And he said, Coach, I'll try. And I said, well, that's all you can do is try. And I appreciate that. But, I think it's just the trust level, and we're able to put together a good plan, a weekly plan that really emphasizes strength and development, movement, core strength, and Josh Fellows has done a tremendous job. He's our strength conditioning guy. We had Nico Torres, who left us 2 years ago to go to Louisville. He's there with Dan McDonald now, and Josh is doing a tremendous job, taking it to another level. So that part, we lift 4 times a week, and obviously, and we'll do that during the season too, and we'll scale back the amount of probably the reps and the weight per se, but we're lifting all year. It's not lift up to the point where we're playing and then we stop lifting. Like, we're providing that opportunity. We feed the heck out of them. Every minute I can feed them, we're feeding them. We got 2 big old refrigerators in our clubhouse. That's always full of food and protein shakes, and just trying to do right by the players with the budget that we have, which is, like I said, is a really good budget. And so if we have it, I want to really emphasize the things that are going to provide these guys development. Physical maturity is the name of the game. And so if you're not developing your guys physically, they're going to have a hard time reaching their maximum potential while they're here. And then you hope they go on, and that wasn't their maximum potential, that they take another step forward with the things maybe that they learned here during their developmental time.
Yeah, I've got one more question for you, and I'll turn it back over to Jared. You mentioned in one of your answers that there's a lot of meat on the bone for Tulane baseball, and
Yep.
there's a lot of things to be accomplished. So can you kind of talk about the goals over the next 3 to 5 years, some of those boxes that you really want to check off to continue taking those next steps, not just in player development, but program development and coaching development along the way?
Yeah, great question. I think coach retention is big. It starts with their expertise and their passions and their dedication to the player. Without that, we don't have a developmental program. We have a player collection program. So trying to keep those guys happy is important. I think development daily is obviously a short-term goal, a daily goal that we strive for, trying to just get a little bit better. It's that old cliche thing, but just trying to get 1% better every day, trying to do one thing better. Like I tell the guys, like, if you don't have personal goals, you need to get them. And we talk about those, and then we'll have to circle back to team goals, because our first year meeting went a little bit long, so I didn't get to those. But like I tell them, though, on their personal goals and even their team goals, it's like somebody trying to gain or lose weight. The thing you step on every day to tell you, are you doing well or are you not doing well? That's just like your goals. You got to check the scale every single day, and that scale is are their goals, and they have to change, and sometimes you got to massage them, not necessarily down to make it easier to meet, But sometimes you got to advance your goals a little bit more because you met them easily, or, maybe it's, you keep the same goal, but maybe you got to take a couple different steps now differently to get to that goal. So I think those things are important individually. I think continuing to move the program forward in our budgetary stuff, trying to do something new every year. I need to get the Hack Shack redone. It was our batting cage, and it's the grittiest part of the program. There's no AC in it, so they go in there and they sweat their butts off. And I have a digital clock that reads the temperature. 110 in there, and it's hot. It's really hot, but they get to roll up their sleeves and get sweaty. We got fans and roller doors, so we can open those up. But trying to, we got new turf in there, and we put 3 rubbers in each tunnel. So we've got 9 rubbers that we're never going to throw 9 pens at the same time, but kind of like, when you go to a spring training site and you go in the batting cage of a spring training site, every tunnel in there's got a mound or double mounds. And so that's what I did, so we can get inside if we've got a, scrimmage because there's lightning and we need to do some live hitter, live pitcher. Try to keep it so one side, can also be kind of a pitching lab. We don't have a dedicated pitching lab yet. That's on the agenda. So we're doing more with less, trying to do force plates and those kind of things. So there's a lot of those kind of things that can continue to tick us upward in our development that are high on the priority list. Continuing to take care of our alums that leave and come back and work out, kind of making an area for them that's really nice. And then for the umpires in the spring, just continuing to bring back our alumni that, we have 30 big leaguers and a lot of guys that have been drafted and played and went to Omaha. And so remembering the past is really important for us. We just had Michael Aubrey back and Nathan Southard, who went to the Hall of Fame. Michael Aubrey was a big leaguer for a couple of years with Cleveland and Baltimore, and was one hell of an in-state player for us. And as was Nathan, a Rummel High School kid. And like those kinds of things are really important. And then the long-term goals, again, we're all held hostage to numbers. I hate to put numbers on it. We said, hey, let's win 40 this last year. And I think at times we probably got sidetracked on the number. You start chasing a number, and then all of a sudden you forget about the process and playing the game. And maybe you start getting outside of yourself and getting a little selfish because you're trying to do too much and trying to carry that burden. So, I think just continuing to be a regular performer in the postseason. We got to win our tournament in our conference to get the automatic bid. UTSA was another bid on the outside this year on the strength of 40 plus wins, and they were a hell of a team. And ECU's done it, the year we won it in 23, and in 24 they got in and still hosted. And so trying to get to that point where we're not having to win the tournament but still wanting to win the tournament. I think, again, why play a tournament if you're not going to win, and so I think those are important, and I think all the stated things that go with programs that can achieve it and that have been there, and even those that haven't, it's like we're all trying to get to Omaha.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of teams out there that start off the year that are going to have a real hard time really thinking that they can do that, and I'm proud to say that I'm a steward of a program that's been there twice. And, I think we can do it, and Coastal shown the way, Fresno State, I competed against them as a coach in 08, and they were pretty damn good. And, and so it's not as frequent. Murray State made a nice run. That was cool. Kent State, which we lost to when I was at Oregon, made it to Omaha. That was a backbreaker. Stony Brook. So it happens. It's becoming more and more difficult for programs that are outside of that power structure to get in there. And, I'd hate to be that guy, but at the end of the day, when things don't make sense, it's always about money, and so I get it. I'm a West Coast guy, so I see the stands not packed, and then I come to the South, and you see Mississippi State and those kind of schools like that they're full, and that's seats and butts, and that's money. So aspiring again to get to Omaha, I think that's always on the deal. But I'd like for us to get in a position where we can win a regional, but getting in the postseason gives you the best chance to continue. And getting lucky, getting placed in the right place, being healthy. the timing, all those things really matter. And those are all out of our control, but just continuing to develop a program holistically that our fan base can be proud of, even the naysayers in our own fan base, which we have. But that's their right. They've seen a lot of really good times here, and I'm okay with that. I can't control that either, but I know what we do on a daily basis, and I know how much it means to us. So continue to move that forward, and just providing a tremendous opportunity for these young guys to come in here and have a great experience playing, competing, winning, and getting this world-class degree is really what it's all about for us.
Oh, I love it. So we're going to wrap up with some fun questions here, just to kind of to wrap things up. So what has been your favorite Tulane moment thus far?
1A and 1B, the fly ball to left in the 23 tournament that we had no business winning, and we won. I think a little bit of 1C is I thought we competed well against the best player in probably this decade, Paul Skeens. I thought that was cool. That was a great environment. And that propelled us, I think, the next year and into this year, just kind of giving us that opportunity to taste that. And then Jackson Lynn's performance in the tournament. He was the MVP this year. Walk-off homer, 2-2, 2 strikes, to deliver us into the NCAA tournament was just really cool. And then, of course, getting the opportunity the day I was told that I was given the opportunity to be the head coach, I thought, obviously a really special day.
No, I love all those answers. Next question I got for you is so when you're not coaching, when you're off the field, what are some of the passions you have away from the game?
My kids and my family, our coaches' families, making sure that they're in positions to where they can try to provide some stability for their families, and then just, being with them. Like my boys have recently taken up golf. My daughter's a ballerina in the Kansas City Ballet. So she's doing that professionally, which I'm very proud of. And
that's cool.
Just watching them grow. Being a dad's one of the best things that you can ever be.
No, I love it. Those are awesome answers. Last question, or last two questions I have for you. So if you could coach any team past or present, which team would that be and why?
If I could say that again, if I could coach any team
past or present, any sport, any I know, loaded question kind of.
Man, oh man. Probably the Showtime Lakers. That would be fun. I grew up watching them, and then the '88 Dodgers. I'm an LA kid, and those were all meaningful experiences. And Vin Scully and Chick Hearn announcing, doing the play-by-play, make that really special, and a lot of really great memories. So, I would say those two teams were really cool, and it would have been fun to be a part of those.
I love it. And the last question we'll wrap up with is, so as we look to the 2026 season, what are you looking towards or forward to most? And what are some of the messages you have for the Tulane fans entering 26?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to just kind of seeing how this group gels. Like I always say, well, I don't say it, but I repeat it from an old coaching friend that until guys do things, they stink. So I'm just going to I'm going to go with the sandbag, say we stink and we got a long way to go. But it's going to be, I'm going to enjoy this part of watching this group kind of come together, because it's 23 new guys and 14 returners. So they've done a nice job so far and kind of assimilating into each other's lives. And that's really hard to do in this day and age when you've got the turnover that you have. And so take a lot of pride in that. So looking forward to that part of it. And, playing the schedule that we have is going to be, it's going to be challenging, and it'll be really competitive and fun. I think the guys will rise to the occasion for that. But in terms of the message for the fan base, I love being here. I love being a steward of this program. I never stepped foot in New Orleans before I came here, but I knew plenty about Tulane baseball and watching that when I first started out in coaching and kind of towards the end of my playing career. So we've got a lot of things to be proud of, and we're going to continue to work hard every single day to make our fan base proud, and not always happy, but we're going to try to do things the right way, win, lose, or draw. And If that's not good enough, then it's not going to be good enough, but it's not going to be because we were doing it the wrong way or being the wrong kind of people.
No, Coach, I love it. And we can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us on the College Baseball Show here with Just Baseball. We're wishing you all nothing but success in 2026. Hopefully, we can get somebody down there to catch a couple games and watch you all play.
Yep.
Can't wait for schedules to drop so we can see all those kind of fun things. But again, Coach, we can't thank you enough for joining us.
Yeah, I just want to tell you guys, how this has gone now. The coverage of college baseball, you guys jumping in there and doing what you're doing. We can't have enough of that, and the care you guys take, and not only you, but your peer group too, is just really appreciated. So thanks for all you guys do for college baseball.
No, we appreciate it, Coach.
Thank you.